are standing between you and lunch. I'll try to make this brief. So yeah, I'm happy to discuss with you about the disease model finder from scientist.com. Of course, I'll tell you all about it and how it works. But before I do that, I will, of course, give a brief introduction to scientist.com as a company, because I've gotten that question a couple of times from a few of you. All right, so scientist.com is what we like to call a business-to-enterprise marketplace. We are headquartered in San Diego, though we have well over 100 employees scattered across the globe. And to date, we work with 24 out of the top 30 pharma companies in the world with well over 4,000 suppliers in our network. So if you need anything, chances are we know a guy. All right, so in terms of what we do, we, in the words of my esteemed colleague, we are matchmakers for science. So we do connect researchers with suppliers of scientific services and products. And we do that with respect to many disease areas, some of which you can see here, though there are many that we capture on our platform. And the overall goal here is to save your time and someone's money. Whether it's probably procurement, your organization, whoever, but at least it's going to save your time. So it should matter to everyone. So I'm just going to focus just really quickly on one of these disease areas, human biological samples. In that subspace, we saw about $50 million in spend on our platform in the past 12 months, totaling over 3,000 requests from researchers. As you can see, the average sourcing time is relatively quick. So again, trying to save you time here. And a very important thing to note is that we take care of compliance. We do work together with your organizations so that you'll know that you can actually work with the supplier that you find. All right, so that brings me to the disease model finder. So in many ways, the disease model finder is an enhancement to what we already do. Again, making connections, helping you find what you need. But as I'm sure many of you are aware, there are traditional issues with sourcing models. And first off, it takes a long time in some cases to find a supplier that has the model you need. And even when you find that supplier, you might be looking at weeks to months of paperwork and negotiation. And it could also be that you have a very niche model that you're looking for, maybe one or more genetic mutations that you need to be present. Could be that you're looking for resistance to a certain standard of care. And even if you do find models, even from multiple suppliers, it's very difficult to evaluate and compare those models, given that a lot of that data is proprietary. And again, lastly, there's always the compliance piece. So the worst thing that can happen is you find a supplier that has the model you need, and then your procurement team tells you, sorry, you can't work with these guys because they've not fulfilled our compliance policies. So that being said, Scientist.com, we decided to take advantage of that relationship that we have with suppliers along with our compliance platform and basically build a centralized database of, in this case, tumor models, though let's say disease models in general. That way you can find what you're looking for a lot faster. And it could be from a lot of the suppliers that you're probably well aware of, but it could also be newer, smaller suppliers that you've probably never heard of. And that being said, I'm going to claim that we have solved most of those issues that I mentioned previously. So first thing to note about this is that it's a free resource for researchers and suppliers. It does drastically cut down time, ideally from weeks down to minutes of just searching, on our database. There's no additional legal review between the client organization and the supplier, so you don't have to worry about the weeks or months of paperwork. And then lastly, this does work in concert with our compliance platform at scientist.com. So, once you find what you need, it's a very quick, streamlined process to get it. So, probably wondering who's participating. So, I'd like to think that we have a lot of the suppliers that you're looking for, though this list is not exhaustive and it's continuing to grow as the weeks go by. And as you can see, some of them are present at this conference. All right, so if you would look at the disease model finder today, you're going to see something that looks like this. First off, you'll see the scatter plot that we have here. This has been constructed using RNA sequencing data that we have obtained from providers. So we run these through conventional normalization techniques as well as some machine learning algorithms to produce what you see here. This is also an interactive plot, so you can very quickly learn about the models that we have in our database. And then down below, you're going to see a deceivingly simple looking search bar. And I mainly say that because we do have a number of filter functionalities, as you can see. First off, many different model types. You might be looking for PDX models, but it could be organoids, could be patient-derived cell cultures, it can be even cell lines as well. Potentially, you might also want to search for some preferred suppliers or even exclude some suppliers. You can do that as well. Look for basic patient information, and I also want to point out a new, where is it? It's here. Yeah, so a new filter that we've added, a publication filter. So a lot of researchers asked us if we could include that so that you can just filter for models that appear in scientific publications. So we think that will be useful. And lastly, you can also search for molecular requirements. So if you're looking for specific genetic mutations or up or down regulation of genes, we have that ability as well. So I think this skipped a bit, so I'm just going to go back here. All right, so I'm just going to run through some quick examples, and please bear with me. I'm used to giving the live demo version of this, but obviously you're going to get the slides version right now. So let's say that we want to obtain tissue for our own internal studies. That is to say, we don't want to outsource the work, we just want the tissue. In that case, we would want to use this licensable filter, which basically means we want to obtain a license to get the tissue. And believe it or not, there are some licensable PDX models out there, just so you know. And maybe you want this to be from a female patient, so you can also add that requirement. And we can continue to tack on parameters here. As you can see, in this case, we want a colon cancer model, so we can do that. And honestly, you can add as many filters as you like if you have really stringent requirements. Alternatively, you could just reset them and search for something else. So in this case, you'll notice we're searching for genetic mutations. In this case, activating mutations of KRAS. We can implement that. We can also search for multiple mutations at the same time. And again, you can continue to add more and more depending on what you want to do. And conversely, if you're looking for up or down regulation of genes, you can implement that as well. So in this case, looking for upregulation of HER2 in combination with downregulation of p53, and then of course the results continue to filter through. And if you're satisfied with the results that you see, you can go ahead and click on these gray buttons to learn more about the models. So this is the kind of information that we obtain from providers. Of course, it's not absolutely exhaustive. We do our best to try to adhere to the minimal information standard for PDX models, but of course, since we're working with suppliers, we take what we can get. But as you can see, a lot of these are very relevant to what you care about. Tumor grade, is it metastatic or not? If we're talking about a PDX model, was there a successful orthotopic implantation? You might also care to look at the notes that the supplier provides. In this case, a fast-growing tumor. So if you have tight timelines, that might be useful. And drug sensitivity data, that might be very important if they provide it. And then also, with the information into what pieces of data are available upon request. All right. You can also request multiple models. This will be important. We see this on our platform all the time, sometimes 10 or 20 depending on the organization you're working with. And you can obviously go ahead and start a request. That generates this request form, and this is automatically populated with your filter parameters. That way, when it gets sent to the supplier, they basically know exactly what you want. And you can always add more information as well. If you're outsourcing services, you probably want to add some of those details as well. And if you're ready, you can go ahead and just submit the request. There we go. And if you're not ready to submit the request, maybe you want to compare the models. So again, this is kind of, I think the selling point about this is that you can actually compare models quantitatively across providers. So for that, our bioinformatic tools might be a little helpful for you there. So if you want to compare models, let's say with respect to gene expression, we can go ahead and click these check boxes to the left here, and then click on the compare button. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring up the comparison module, and you'll just get a quick visual QC of kind of how these models compare, how distinct are they, how similar are they representative of given like cancer type clusters, as you can see here. And if you like, you can also implement differential gene expression analysis. So using this next tab here, potentially you can select from a set of canonical pathways. We do have a drop-down that you can click on. Maybe you care about a proprietary pathway, and go ahead and list the gene symbols, one at a time. And then that will automatically compute this clustered heat map so that you can compare the expression of those genes across the models you are comparing. And there's other functionalities that, as you can see here, but in the interest of time, I'll go ahead and skip ahead to this model similarity feature. So let's say you found a PDX model, you're outsourcing services, but you also don't want to wait 2 months for results. Maybe you'd like to work on some organoids or some patient-derived cell cultures in the meantime. In this case, you can use this tool to actually find organoids or patient-derived cell cultures or what have you that are most similar to the models you selected. And again, this is using the genes that you've inputted here or pathways. So that's one way to do it. Another way to use this tool is you found a model that fits your needs from one supplier, but you don't like that supplier. You want to work with anyone else but them. In that case, you can actually you can implement that here as well, and then find all of those similar models. All right. That being said, this brings me to my closing points here. So just want to reiterate a few things. Again, this is free. Always an important thing to emphasize. Again, for researchers and suppliers, and I think that's one reason why we've gotten a lot of suppliers jumping on as of late. It's good to get visibility for them, and then it's good for you to find what you need. We have currently about 4,000 tumor models, though I'm expecting to get a whole bunch dumped on in the next 2 to 3 weeks, so we should have close to or above 6,000 soon. And other than that, this is hopefully going to accelerate your time or your timelines, save you time, no additional legal review. It's embedded, with our compliance platform and purchasing, so hopefully nice, smooth, and streamlined process. And lastly, we're very responsive to feedback. So a lot of the functionalities that you've seen here have come about in our conversations with researchers, like publications and things like that. So if you have anything, to say or anything that's missing, just let us know. We're really just trying to make this as useful as we can for everyone involved. And we are expanding outside of oncology. We're hoping to accomplish this by the end of the year. We've gotten a lot of requests for that too, but that one's a bigger problem to solve, but we'll get there eventually. So other than that, please come talk to us, other than that, thanks for listening. I'll take any questions if you have.